unfamiliar to you. But I want us to look at a couple of things, okay? It's obvious that Jesus had made a great impression on John's follower, John the Baptist's followers, right? And there was arguments and different things, but two of those followers, when John said, that's the man, that's the guy I've been talking about while I was munching locusts, you know what I mean? Anybody had locusts? I'm thinking if you dip them in chocolate syrup maybe, I don't know. But anyway, John the Baptist looks and he says, that's the guy. And so what happens? Two of his followers look and go, love you, John, but if that's the guy that you've been talking about this whole time, that's who I'm going to follow. Which, of course, is exactly what John wanted. And then Jesus looks back and there's just two dudes following him around. Kind of creepy, right? I mean, you know, some of you young ladies at camp may have discovered that happening to you. You're walking around and some dude's following you around. Guys, stop it. You're creepy, okay? Leave our beautiful young ladies alone, all right? Now, they're like, some of the girls are like, but I liked it. Well, don't. You got plenty of time. Wait. Goodness gracious. So anyway, but that's a whole other message. We'll do that another time, all right? So Jesus looks at him and says, what do you seek, right? There's the first question. What do you seek? Why are you following me? Right? Now, if Jesus turns to you and says, what do you seek? And you've just been told that he is the Messiah. He's the guy. This is the one, right? And you're going to go, okay, this is a big answer, right? Okay, I'm going to think about it for a second. I'm going to come up with some really good answer. No, that's not what they did. They looked at him like, so where are you staying? That is so not profound. You know what I mean? It's like, it's in the Bible, guys. Come on, give us something really like, we seek to know the absolute truth of all things that will take us to eternity in heaven and to life eternal. No, where are you staying? Okay, so this is where are you staying? But that's not really what they were asking. Their question in response to his question wasn't where are you staying? It's, we want to know where you're going because we want to sit down at your feet and learn from you. That's what they're really saying. They just didn't say it very well. They just need to learn, right? They got better when they started writing books of the Bible. So here's the thing. The whole inspiration thing was great for them. But they when they look at him, they say, teacher, rabbi, we know you're the one. Where are you staying? Because we want to go be with you. Remember the story of the rich young ruler a couple of nights ago? The one who Jesus just wanted to take a walk with him. They said, Jesus, we want to take a walk with you. We want to sit down with you. We want to follow you. It says they were following him. That's what Jeremy was talking about last night. They said, we want to follow you. And they understood following Jesus had a lot more to do than just walking on a path behind him. But they needed to sit at his feet and learn from him. And so they said, where are you staying? And he says, come and see. Now again, just like Jesus' questions had more than one meaning, Jesus' answers had more than one meaning too. Yeah, he was like, hey, come over to my place, I'm staying. But, you know, it's probably not very nice because Jesus really wasn't too concerned with that kind of stuff. Come and see. Come and see what? Oh, come and see what the Lord has done, right? Come and see his faithfulness. Come and see the truth. Come and see what your whole life is going to be about, right? The possibilities are wide open. But when you realize that whole little conversation there, and there's more to the conversation we're going to talk about here in just a minute, but that question Jesus asked, what do you seek? I think it's a pretty good question. When we come into the presence of God, when we come to Jesus with something, with anything, I think the question he asks us a lot of time is, what do you seek? And we come to him sometimes and we say, Lord, will you help us with this test? I got this test tomorrow. I'm going to fail it. I can't fail it. It's a big deal. Please help me pass this test. And I think his question back to us is normally, what do you seek? And you're like, I seek to pass the test, right? But that's not really what's going on. You're not asking God to supernaturally put answers on your page. If you are, then what you seek is definitely the wrong thing, okay? Hopefully what you're seeking is is just God's favor, that he'll help you retain what you need to for all the hard work you've put into the class. But sometimes what we're seeking is for God to just take care of it. We look at Jesus and we say, I just seek for you to make my life easy. Let's see. I'm looking for the verse where Jesus says, I want to make your life easy, happy, and all about you. Well, I just made it through Revelation. Maybe it's in the concordance, maps. There's maps. Maybe there's Ephesians and easy love. Nope, it's not in there. Because he doesn't care about your happiness. Sorry. I know we're Americans and we think everybody just cares about our happiness, but the truth is, Jesus didn't die to make you happy. Jesus died so you'd have eternal life, live your life for him, and show that to everybody around you, even if it costs you everything. Whoops. Sorry, American dream. Okay? Guys, Jesus looks at us and he says, what do you seek? And our response should be, you. More of you. That's it. I want more of you. I seek to know you more. I seek to show others you more. I seek to lead others towards you more, whether it's in worship, whether it's in Sunday school class, whether it's at school, it doesn't matter. What do you seek? Because the wrong answer, and Jesus doesn't say, come and see. He responds like he did the rich young ruler. So what do you seek? Oh, but when we know him and who he is and what he's about, and he says, what do you seek? And we say, God, Jesus, we just want to go with you. Wherever you're staying, we want to stay there until you're not staying there anymore. And then we want to go with you to wherever you're staying next. We want to be with you there, wherever that is. May be nice, may not be nice, maybe a long walk, maybe a short walk. And that's exactly what these men did. They spent the majority of their lives following Jesus all over the place, even after he died. They followed him all the way to their own deaths, almost every one of them. So, this, what do you seek, is an important question to begin the conversation. And I think it's something that we need to realize is a question Jesus probably asks us a lot. Because sometimes we don't know what we seek. Sometimes we don't think about what we seek. We just seek it. Why? Some of you came here because you sought to learn to sing better. The question is, why do you seek it? Do you seek it so that you can be like epically awesome and go win The Voice or American Idol or whatever other weird contest is out there that people watch on television? America's Got Talent, I don't know. Name it. You can like do somersaults with fire and win, you know? But the truth is, guys, why do we seek it? Well, if we seek it because I want people to be able to follow these amazing songs that you've given us, God. I want to go and sit at your feet, and I want others to come with me. That's good, right? If it's because I want to be a rock star, that's not what he's looking for. So as we walk through life, I think we have to hear this question echo. What do you seek? What do you seek? When you're looking to make a move, to make a change, when you're looking to start something, integrate a ministry, become involved in something, the question is, what do you seek? A pat on the back? Or do you seek to grow closer to Jesus? Know more about him and take others toward him, which is the next thing that happens in the story, right? Because Andrew goes and finds his brother, right? His name was Simon. Simon. And he takes Simon and he says, dude, totally Messiah. I'm telling you, this is the guy. And so Simon's like, okay, let's go. And Simon and Andrew go back to Jesus. And Jesus looks at Simon, whom they've not known each other very long, right? And he says, I'm going to call you Cephas, or Peter, depending on which language you're going to speak in. Okay? Cephas. Kind of strange, isn't it? Interesting interaction here. I want to put this in perspective for you. You're like, well, I'm sure there's a reason for that because I know what happens later. I understand, but here's Peter, Simon at the time. He walks up, and you got to understand, the name Cephas or the name Peter, it wasn't really a common, proper name. It was more like a nickname. Okay, it was. So he says, I'm gonna name you Cephas or Peter, which means stone or rock. Okay, that's what it means. All right. And so what happens here is Jesus looks at him and he says, "Hey, Simon, I'm gonna call you Rocky." I mean, it's a nickname. He's like, "I'll call you Rocky, man. From now on, you're Rocky." You know, that's strange. Like, just right there, gives him a nickname. You think maybe Peter's like big old buff guy, right? You know, he's like, oh. But we know, oh no, there's a reason for this. Because Peter's the rock, right? We all know this because we read more in the book. When you read it to the end, you learn all kinds of stuff, right? And so here it is. You got Peter and he's the rock, and we're like, okay, check mark, I got this. Because we're American Christians and we're really good at checking things off and then never going back and really examining them again because we're like, oh, I learned that once, okay? In the Bible, you never learn things once. You get to it once, you're just getting started. Go to it about 10,000 times, and you might be getting into the middle of what we can learn, okay? There's always something so much deeper. But anyway, you reach this point, and Jesus looks at him and says, all right, Rocky, you're like a rock. And we think, well, Peter's the rock. And Jesus talks about it later, but was Peter really a rock? Was he this unmovable force? Was he this stable aspect in the disciples? Not really, guys. He was more like a firecracker. You know what I mean? Like he's bebopping along, and all of a sudden, boom, there goes Peter, right? I mean, he goes chopping people's ears off. He's a crazy dude, nuts, all right? He gets arguing about who's going to sit close to Jesus. I mean, he gets involved in all these things. He wasn't a rock, guys. He wasn't a rock. Now, it's interesting because we see this conversation return much later in their relationship. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to go to Matthew chapter 16. Matthew chapter 16. Now, this should also be a very familiar passage to you. We're going to read verses 13 through 19. This is what we call the story of Caesarea Philippi, okay? Caesarea Philippi. And so let's read through it, and then we'll kind of set up what's actually going on here, okay? So it says, now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do the people say the Son of Man is? And they said, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah or one of the prophets. He said to them, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter replied, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Okay, this should be a familiar passage to you. It's fairly popular, I guess you would say, among teachers. But I heard the story 1,000 times over, and it's pretty fascinating to go through the dynamics of this. But we see the parallel going on here. Now, I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a setup here of what's going on. Now, this is a bit of a rabbit trail, I'm warning you, all right? But it serves a purpose. So, Brandon, will you put that picture of Caesarea Philippi up there, okay? This is Caesarea Philippi, all right? This is where they were. Now, this is a modern picture, but this is exactly where they were, all right? Now, in their time, it looked a lot different than this because it was kind of an oasis in the desert. And it had this wonderful spring that came from underground, popped out of that cave there, and then runs down. It's got the waterfall. You just didn't get a lot of areas like that out there. And so the people would go gather in that area. But it wasn't like family picnic time, okay? Caesarea Philippi was kind of like Las Vegas, okay? You know, what happened in Caesarea Philippi stayed in Caesarea Philippi, okay? So people were doing all kinds of stuff that they'd never want their mama to know that they were doing, all right? Drugs and all kinds of stuff going on, and it was a bad place to be. It was what we would call a pagan place, all right? And this right here is this massive 100-foot rock. You see that? It's like one giant stone. This is where they were. And Jesus is standing here with his disciples, whom he's brought, these guys who have followed him and have been faithful to him. And when he says, who do they say that I am? Well, who is they? It is the worst of the world, guys. They're not standing on the Temple Mount. These aren't even Jews. All of them are going to be Gentiles, Romans. And they're not focused on good things. So he asks, who do they say that I am? And you hear the answers that the disciples give. Maybe he's Elijah, he's a prophet, whatever. That's what people say that they think you might be. By the way, you can find other religions that call Jesus that too. And they didn't get that recently. It started way back then. And then the third question of the day is, who do you say that I am? Well, that's an interesting question. Who do you say that I am? And of course, Peter pipes up and he says, you're the Son of the living God. You're it. You're the Messiah. You're the one. Right? Good answer. Jesus looks at him, big smile. Man, only God could show you this. So you, Peter, on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So you see where they're standing right now. The disciples have probably never seen a rock larger than this in their entire life. They're standing amidst a pagan culture, and Jesus says, on this rock I will build my church. So we're thinking, we read that and we're like, oh, it's Peter. Peter's the rock. Well, he is. That's exactly what's being said. But there's more to it than that. Guys, he's standing on the biggest rock that these people have ever seen, filled with a pagan, lost, dirty, nasty world. And that is exactly what he built his church on, guys. That's what we are. Anybody in here a Jew? Born blood, full blood Jew? Not one of us. Every one of us comes from a lineage that didn't have Christ. Every one of us comes from a pagan culture at some point in our history. Every single one of us come from that moment where we're just dirty, worthless Gentiles. And that, my friends, is what Jesus built his church on. Whoa. So they're standing on this huge rock filled with all these pagans, and Jesus says, on this rock, I'll build my church. But he's not done. He says, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it, right? See that cave right there? It's really nice, isn't it? It's a very pretty spot. You might go and dip your hands and wash them and stuff like that. But back in Jesus' time, it wasn't really a nice place, because there's a place right there at the mouth of the cave where the spring comes out from the ground and it rolls, okay? And depending on how much the water's running, maybe what time of year, that water would roll in different ways and the spring would flow through. And so what would happen is they would come and they would offer sacrifices to their pagan gods right here at the entrance of this cave, where there was a statue of the god Pan, the god of fear. Isn't that great? Everybody wants a god of fear in your life, right? Totally awesome. Let's just go make that one up. Like God of love, God of happiness, God of prosperity. Who came up with the god of fear? What a hobby, making up gods like that. Anyway, so here's Pan. He's got his pan flute. You know what he looks like, right? And they've got a statue of him right there at the mouth of that, and people would come with their babies, and they would drop them in the water. And if the current pulled the baby under, then Pan took the sacrifice. And if it didn't, if the baby kind of flowed down, they could take the baby out and they'd be able to keep their baby. Whoa, right? This is not a good place. And you know what they called that opening? Called it the gates of hell. That's what it was named. On this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. What? Yes. They're standing on the biggest rock they've ever seen at the gates of hell when he tells them this. For those of you in leadership class, that's why hermeneutics is important, all right? understanding the context of what we're talking about. And bridging that gap is important, guys. But let me tell you, as they stood there at Caesarea Philippi, Jesus rocked their world. And he looked at Peter and he said, Peter, only God can reveal this to you. On this rock I'll build my church. Peter, the rock. Rocky, nicknamed on day one, right? Why? Why did Jesus call him that? Well, because he was a rock. Yeah, he was about to betray Jesus 3 times. Oopsie. Which, did John betray Jesus 3 times? Did Matthew betray? No. Just Peter, the rock. How come he gets to be the rock? Well, I think it's really simple. Jesus asked, who do you say I am? And Peter said, you're the Son of God. There's no one like you. You know what? Jesus gave it right back to Peter. He said who Peter was, didn't he? He said, Peter, you're the rock. But Peter wasn't the rock yet, was he? Now you read Acts and you find Peter the rock. I'm serious. You read Acts and you see what God does through Peter as the foundation, the rock, the leadership of the church. The world is changed by this man. We are gathered as a group of churches because of Peter's ministry, the rock. He became this amazing thing that nobody ever really saw in him except Jesus. Because when he asked who they said he was, he said, I'll tell you who you are, Peter. You're going to be my rock. He already knew it. He already knew who Peter was going to be. He already knew what Peter could become. He knew it from day one when he saw him. He said, here you go, man. You're the rock. This is where I'm building my church. This is the guy who's got the tools. This is the guy who's going to follow me. I know exactly who you are. Interestingly enough, he says, who do you say I am? Anybody ever knows what Romans chapter 10, verse 9 says? Anybody? Should be one you got right here. Romans chapter 10, verse 9. Anybody? If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, then you'll be saved, right? Who do you say he is? If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, who do you say he is? Peter said, you're the Son of God. Jesus looked back at him and said, yep, and here's who you are. Even though you're going to betray me, even though you're going to disobey me and attack a Roman guard, even though you're this loose cannon that we never know exactly what's going to happen, here's who you are. You're the rock. I think we come to Jesus this week and he asks us this question. What do you seek? What are you pursuing here? If you're the guy following the girl around, we know what you're pursuing. What do you seek? Why? Why are you here? And I don't know what your answer is. And then he also asks the question, who do you say I am? And when we call out to him and we say, you are God, you are the Son of the living God, you are the one, you're the guy I'm going to follow, I'm going where you go. Wherever you are, I am. And wherever you go next, I will be again, because that's how this works. I'm following you. When you answer that question, he looks back at you and he tells you who you are. But we're not usually willing to accept it. We think, and this is epidemic in your culture, in your generation, you think you're worthless. Now, not everybody in this room does, but I guarantee you, over half of you struggle with this mightily. I've watched young men and young ladies over the last few years just destroy themselves. People that God is using and doing powerful things through just diminish all that He is in their lives because they just don't think they're worth it. But guys, it's time to stand up and let Jesus tell you who you are and stop believing the lies. Because God has made you special. He's made you unique. He's made you for a specific purpose, to be a specific kind of follower. And you can step up and just like Peter, you can say, okay, I'll do it. I'll be who you say I am. You have the choice not to. But Jesus already knows what He's made you to be. He has already got a plan for you to fulfill. The question is, will you believe Him? It's really that simple. Or will you believe the lie? The lie that says, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not talented enough, you're not good enough. I don't know, whatever the lie is, just pick it. It's all a lie because Jesus made you. God made you in His image. He loves you. And you say, well, I'm just not consistent enough, or I fly off the handle. Hi, Peter, how are you doing? How about we build a church on you for generations to come? So you can choose to embrace who God says you are, or you can continue to reject it. But oh, what you'll miss out on. Living a life chasing lies. Or will you be all that He says you are? I want us to stand together. The band's going to play. They're going to sing. You can join in with them. But if God's dealing with your heart tonight, if you have not let Him tell you who you are, I want to encourage you to, where you are, come down here, whatever. Get on your face before God and tell Him, you are the Son of the living God. You're the Messiah. And then listen. Let Him tell you who you are. Listen to the truths that people have spoken into your life over and over and over when they've told you how amazing God has made you. Listen to the scriptures that have been read to you over and over that talk about how much God values you and how important you are to His kingdom. Listen to what He has to say. And then make the decision that you're going to be that and nothing else. It is your choice. Father, we thank you. We thank you that you are such a faithful and awesome God. And Lord, we know you have called each one of us out, called us to step out and to minister in your name. But Lord, I know many of these students are struggling with their own value, with who they are, with what the world says they are, or what some person in their life has told them they are that's a total lie. Lord, I pray that they would let you speak truth into their life tonight. And Lord, that they would embrace what you want them to be so that they can follow every step of the way and fulfill the path you have for their lives. Lord, empower this moment. Thank you. In your name, amen.